Greetings everybody, my name is Benjamin Vascones and I will talk about the Nevado del Ruiz eruption which caused the Armero tragedy in Colombia. Well, the night of the 13th of November of 1985 at 9:45 p.m. a little but major important volcanic eruption occurred in Colombia between the departments of Caldas and Tolima. This event will change Colombians' disaster management forever, but first, it will expose all the flaws and negligences made by the decision makers of that time. The Nevado del Ruiz eruption caused so much destruction because of lahars. But what are lahars? Lahars are a mixture of water and rock fragments that flow quickly down the slopes of a volcano. Lahars can be extremely destructive and also more deadly than lava flows. The eruption of the Nevado del Ruiz was a phreatic eruption, which means that it was most heat streams of water that flow through the volcano, not lava itself. It causes the ice copes to melt and then produce the lahars. Because of this eruption, the town of Armero and 23,000 of its inhabitants were covered by mud and rocks, literally erasing them from the map. But what happened? Why didn't they mitigate the disaster or had developed some plan to avoid these terrible consequences? Because the volcano was active for several months before. There are a lot of versions about this, but most of them conclude that all the disaster could have been avoided, but the political interests of the local and government authorities were not focused in this issue. Also, very poor interoperability between the civil disaster team that required the immediate evacuation, but they were ordered to ask to the directors in the capital city, and all this bureaucratic lasted for about 2 hours. And suddenly, a lot of bad luck also became present in the disaster because they lost the electrical power and they had no way to communicate. At the time, there was no internet and no other ways to communicate than telephone. So the people from Armero were left behind at its own luck. There were local leaders like the priest of the town that asked people to stay in their homes. The Red Cross from other towns, nearby towns, also tried to interview, but it was too late. After the 11 p.m., after three waves of lahars, the entire town was covered in mud. The rescue teams arrived very late because the lahars also destructed the railroads. There was a lot of media coverage about this, but it also was very hard to gain more attention and to receive more aid because the Mexico earthquake had happened months before this. So all the aid was directed to Mexico and it was hard to direct it to Colombia again. After all this disaster management, the lessons were learned, fortunately. And now the Colombia country has developed a lot of departments and policies towards the volcanic eruptions and volcanic potential disasters. Because one thing that is characteristic of the volcanoes eruptions is that are unpredictable. They can occur in 1 year or 3 months, or they can occur in 100 years. That is one of the reasons of the poor management of the situation. Also because people had seismographs and all the alerts and the messages that the volcano and its seismic movements indicated were not properly read by the people who were supposed to be qualified for it. So this is a very sad tragedy with a lot of sad faces, especially the one of a child called Omaira Sanchez, which was worldwide famous because of a photograph that showed her lying beneath all the destruction and couldn't be able to get out for almost 60 hours. She perished upon the site of all the rescuers. So these kind of disasters leave us a message that we have to make good mitigation plans, early response plans, early alerts, and in the case of volcano, is essential to retreat because it's one of the nature's strongest forces. Thank you.